The problem is web developers care more about how fast they can finish their job than how well the job's done. Consider this, you've got SEOs charging companies for SEO, and Google can't even spider a site to find all the content if the first content pane isn't in under a second, and yours takes 3 seconds. So Google can't even find all the pages. When you're adding more and more content to your website, Google's having a hard time finding that content and ranking it because your first content pane takes 3 seconds and they need it to be in under a second. There's also a ranking penalty if your website takes longer than 2.5 seconds to fully load, or for the largest content pane. Yours takes 3.8 seconds. The reason for that is because when Google studied their ad network, they found that 53% of people, more than half the people, will leave a website if the website takes 3 seconds to load. So they said, okay, this is a problem. If the website takes longer than 3 seconds to load, over half the people are going to leave. So we're going to have a ranking penalty to prevent these sites from showing up at the top of the search engines, because we want them to be at least in 2.5 seconds. But what you really want is for that largest content pane to be just like the first content pane, and both of them to be in under a second. But so let's skip all that and let's get to the ADA compliancy problems. You can't put elements like buttons and things inside of an Arial hidden true, because what happens is the Arial hidden true is telling it, hey, listen, there's nothing in here. Ignore the content inside of here. And then you put a button inside there, and now there's a problem, because when you're tabbing across using your keyboard, the keyboard is going to go into this area and it's going to say, hey, there's a button in here, but the assistive technology isn't going to see anything because it's saying, hey, it's hidden, there's nothing in here. But when you're tapping with your keyboard, it's going to find this information, and that's a problem. So there's a couple ways to fix this. One way to fix it is just to remove it altogether. Remove the hidden element equals true, or the Arial hidden equals true. The next way to do it is to use tab index equals -1 for the focusable element. Another way to fix it is just to hide the entire thing. Use CSS and you can do display none. You can hide the entire element so that nothing's going to use that anyway. But this breaks the WCAG 2.1 success criterion 4.1.2 with the name row value. And the problem is users relying on a screen reader won't be able to see these elements. Yet they might still tab through them, and this creates a disorientation as elements are skipped by the screen reader but can be interacted with on the keyboard. Now, before we get to the other ADA compliance issues, I want to talk just a second about the fact that when you're designing a website, when you're writing code, you should make sure that you have valid code. Professionals validate their code. This code has 17 errors and 59 warnings and 63 info messages. All that stuff needs to be fixed, because understand, one error, just one error, can prevent the website from working correctly in a browser. It can make it not work correctly on the device. It can cause it not to work correctly on a screen reader. So you've got to make sure there's no errors, because those errors can prevent the search engines from spidering it. If you're a professional web developer and someone asks you what constitutes good code, you have to say code that validates. So if you're a professional, you validate your code. So all those errors should be fixed. You shouldn't have any errors on the website. And there are tools that you can use to check this if you're the owner of the website, to make sure that it's ADA compliant and it's W3C valid. And these tools don't check everything. They don't catch it all. So you got to go through it by hand, but they're a good starting point. If the tools are showing an error, fix those errors and then move on to the next errors. Then you can check it by hand to find all the other stuff that the tools mix. But you got to fix the errors that are easy to find first. The next problem is the missing labels for the form fields. Assign each input field an ID and then match it with the corresponding label with the for attribute. Here's an example. Your label for equals first name, and then you've got the input ID equals first name. Another problem you've got is with your contrast. The issue of very low contrast between text and background colors is a violation of the Web Content Accessibility Guideline 2.1. This ensures that text has sufficient contrast with its background so that it's readable and people with visual impairments, including those with color blindness or low vision, can read it. Yours is at 3.28 on some of them. I mean, you got several of them that are different, but you need to adjust the contrast on these so that they meet the criteria. You can probably just change them to 444 on the color on these. This is an alert for redundant links. So you've got some of the links that are the same. That's a problem when you've got a lot of the same links. You should fix these alerts, the 17 contrast errors, the 2 errors on the other code. I mean, you should go through and try to get all these errors fixed so that you don't have any errors at all. But every page is going to have some errors on them. And that's just some of the errors. These are just a couple of the tools you can use to check this stuff. There's other tools, and there's also going through it by hand and checking the code and everything else. But this should give you an idea of some of the stuff that you need to fix and some of the stuff you need to do right here to make sure that is ADA compliant and readable to people who have problems and are looking for help. But if you want me to go through the site further, if you need help fixing something, or you have any questions, just let me know. I hope that helps. Thanks, and have a good day.